Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. We're a church of open minds and loving hearts, celebrating many spiritual paths, many sources of wisdom, and many identities. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes for our world, and your story are welcome here. Welcome to those few souls helping us in person today, and welcome to all of you joining us online. We are glad to be together and grateful to be live streaming, which will happen every Sunday at 9 a.m., where you can access the video anytime after that. If you subscribe to our channel, that will help you find it a little easier. You can click the little bell to get notifications, all those things, or you can follow the link in your weekly e-news. So, today, Ufta, my people would say. We were hoping to see many of you in these chairs in this space for our first in-person attendance Sunday. And as the pandemic lingers on and our hearts are weary, we know that right now, if you're watching and paying attention, right now is not quite the right time to do that. We hope it will be soon. The good news is that we are ready in new ways to do it quickly as soon as it's time. I'm grateful for our regathering team and leaders for their careful, their loving concern for our entire community. And also good news for those who are comfortable, we'll offer outdoor in-person coffee hour starting today in the upper parking lot. So tables and chairs will be set, coffee and tea will be provided, where you can bring your own drink, you can bring your own chair and find a space, mingle around, stay distance outside, masks encouraged and welcome but not required outdoors. We hope to see many of you there, and we'll do that each week as the weather holds for those who are comfortable, so you can join us today at 10:30 in the upper parking lot. Today's offering will go to support our church, including half for our Human Needs Fund. You can give online at the link below if you're on our YouTube page, or you can go to uurochmn.org/give. For today's music, we're grateful to our staff musicians, Joe Mish and Austin Ferguson, as well as musician emerita, Connie Schulke. Thank you all, and thank you, Connie, for playing today. The lyrics will be shown on the screen, so if you're at home, you can take your mask off, you probably don't have one on there, and sing as loud as you want, and really project into wherever you are, so sing along and join in our service. Finally, in the words of the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes, minister of this church in the 1870s, may our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together. Chantel will light the chalice.
We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of life we share together. Please join us in quietly singing or humming along hymn number 66, When the Summer Sun is Shining.
When the summer sun is shining over golden land and sea, and the flowers in the hedgerow welcome butterfly and bee, then my open heart is glowing, full of warmth for everyone, and I feel an inner beauty which reflects the summer sun. When the summer clouds of thunder bring the long-awaited rain, and the thirsty soil is moistened and the grass is green again, Then I long for summer sunshine, but I know that clouds and tears are a part of life's refreshment, like the rainbow's hopes and fears. In the cool of summer evening, when the dancing insects play, and in garden, street, and meadow linger echoes of the day, then my heart is full of yearning, hopes and memories flood the whole of my being, reaching inwards to the corners of my soul.
Not so very long ago, there was a small gift shop in downtown Rochester. And if my memory doesn't fail me, I think it was called the Open Table. It's possible some of you may remember this shop, despite its short life in the harsh world of retail. The shop sold handmade items from around the world with the intention, I assume, of bringing support to global artisans and their communities, to help find a U.S. market for their crafts. I mention this shop because one day, when browsing through what they had to offer, I came across a book that caught my eye. Well, it wasn't so much the book itself, but rather the book's title. And it stayed with me ever since. The title read, A Dry Roof and a Cow. Dreams and Portraits of Our Neighbors, written by Henry J.M. Nowen and published to commemorate 75 years of service in Christ by no less than 10,000 Mennonite Central Committee volunteer workers. It read, "This is a volume of faces and the simple hopes and dreams of the people of Bangladesh, Vietnam, the West Bank, Bolivia, Florida, and Burkina Faso." I may have browsed through the pages. I don't remember. I know I did not read the book. But before writing this, I did a search in the public library to see if they had it, which they did not. Then I looked it up online, and because it's been a long time and I wanted to make sure I was not making this all up, yes, it's real. Anyway, all this is pretty much irrelevant because the main reason I bring this book up is simply that I love the title, A Dry Roof and a Cow. It spoke to me. In my mind, this was the quintessential translation of basic human needs: food and shelter, or in the case of the book, shelter and food. It said it all. It's not hard to imagine a roof made of natural materials in constant need of attention, but easily mended to function again with no more technology than one's own hands and materials readily available. I can imagine a day when it was not raining, when you or your family would go out into the natural world with little more than your bare feet between you and the planet, and do whatever was necessary to assure your family's needs are met. I can also imagine a cow or other large livestock and all it meant to a simple rural family. An animal that you may have carefully selected, invested a significant portion of your income into, and put your hopes, dreams, and basic survival into. And if you have any doubts at all about what a single large beast might represent on a tiny farm, I would instruct you to tune into an episode of the PBS show All Creatures Great and Small. I think you would see more than one example of what is invested physically and emotionally in creatures great and because as they become part of a family unit. Their survival may have meant your survival. This morning, many of us were supposed to be under our dry roof, celebrating what might have been known in the UU history books as Cautious Sunday. But as it stands, this was not to be. The roof, however, is still ours to be under. And these days, to say the least, it is dry. This sacred roof provides us with a sheltered space, but also unites us as a family, even as we pine for the company of our absent masked members. But even if we are not all here today, we still share our hopes and dreams, and possibly even a few virtual portraits in our minds and imaginations. Simple enough. But of course, there is the metaphor of the cowl. And let me say straight away that metaphorically, it's not Luke. No, it's not Luke. But we do have something big here that we need to feed and nourish constantly. Something that assures our family's survival and growth within our community. Beneath our roof, or not, we invest not only our time, but our love in this big spiritual thing being. And as we nourish it, it will grow along with us and nourish us. But could it really be that simple? Well, it is often, and even this morning, under this very roof, I'm reminded that it's a gift to be simple. So maybe we can start with that knowledge. Then maybe throw in a little gratitude for all of life that allows us to appreciate that simplicity. Simplicity, like the title of a book found in a small and seemingly insignificant shop. This morning, in gratitude, I offer my blessing for this space, for a dry roof and a cowl.
Good morning to my friends and wizards out there. I wish that I could be seeing you today. But in times like this, it's important to remember that it always seems a little greener on the other side, but sometimes we need to just take advantage of what we can see from the inside. So with that, we'll start today's story. Outside In by Deborah Underwood, illustrated by Cindy Derby. Once, we were a part of outside, and outside, it was a part of us. There was nothing between us. Now, sometimes, even when we're outside, we are actually inside. We even can forget that outside is there. So outside reminds us, with flashes at the window and slow magic tricks. It sends the sunset and shadows inside to play. Outside sings to us with chirps and rustles and tap-taps on the roof. It beckons with smells, sun-baked, fresh, and mysterious. Outside feeds us. Sun, rain, and seeds become warm bread and berries. Outside cuddles us in clothes, once puffs of cotton. It holds us in wooden chairs, once trees. We feel outside in the warm weight of our cats and the rough fur of our dogs. Outside shows us there is a time to rest and a time to start fresh. Sometimes outside steals inside, a spider seeking shelter, a box elder bug in the bath, a tiny snail on some kale. Even rivers come inside, cool water rushing, eager to return to the sea. I'm here, outside says. I miss you. Thankfully, outside waits. And we answer.
In my soul the sun is shining, in my blood the rolling sea, in my breath the air of mountains, in my body Mother Earth. In my soul the sun is shining, in my blood the rolling sea, in my breath the air of mountains, in my body Mother
Good morning. It is so good to be with you. As we come together again, I invite you to settle in here or there as we create this place of communal caring and connection. Be enriched by the presence of each other and draw yourself into the heart of love at this time of service and reflection. In this time together, we ask that our minds be open, our hearts welcoming, and our arms embracing. Here we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Paula Horner, serving as our caring coordinator for the last week, arranging care for our members and friends in need. Lynn Kirkland and Rhonda Lorenz will take over tomorrow for the next 2 weeks, and we thank them for that. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. This year has taken a lot out of us. It has taken a lot from us. If during this time of increasing needs in our lives you are experiencing challenges, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. Many of us may need additional care, whether it be personal pastoral care or other assistance, and we encourage you to reach out to Reverend Luke or myself with that request. Today's flowers are shared by Anne and Richard Hutton in loving memory of Eddie Barnett. In this community, we share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because all people here have value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those who are experiencing illness, sadness, or loneliness. May the strength and love in our congregation help guide you. We revel in those who are experiencing joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all, and may their joy filter into all around them. May all of us find love, hope, joy, and healing strength in our community. We hold Jim Olson in our thoughts this morning. Jim has had increasing difficulty with his breathing and has been experiencing a decline in overall health. He hopes that recent visits to the doctor can help these things improve. Jim would appreciate well wishes and cards of support, and we send him healing strength. And Marty and Charlotte Peterman share gratitude with you all for the support and love during Marty's health journey. The strength and love from a community can do some amazing things, and they are thrilled to share that Marty is no longer under hospice care, and recent scans show no new concerns. That is such welcomed good news, and we hope for continued good progress for him. Please continue keeping them close in your thoughts. As we sneak around the corner into our new normal and ease into the future, which will be a new world, we ask for hope and patience, understanding and acceptance, and a renewed commitment to service to those in our lives, church, and community. As we begin the planning of regathering, we do so carefully and intentionally and with joy. May the faith in the Spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
invite you to take an easy breath. Breathe the breath of life. Sit deeply here in this house of love, this community of justice and hope and grace. Know that here you are named, you are known as beloved, as sacred, as welcome. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life and source of love, God of 1,000 names and beyond all naming, tracking the conditions of the world can take all our time. Getting the updates about air quality and about daily case numbers, about global strife and climate catastrophe, checking in and tracking the updates of our soul and our heart and our mind and our hope, all of which could use a reprieve and exhale. May we find in our days and in our family or friends those loved ones that we're able and blessed to be with. May we find in our interactions, limited as they might be, with people close or by distance, or with the natural world, moments to remember the small gifts, the simple gifts of the day, of sun and moon, of kindness and care, all those things that hold us, that nourish us, mind, body, and spirit, to wake to a new day with as much gratitude as we can muster for those little miracles that are always there. We hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, in body, or spirit. We hold the continued uncertainty around our world, those suffering after earthquakes and other climate catastrophes. We especially hold those in Haiti. We hold those in growing concern and chaos in Afghanistan as our hearts continue to be weary as we hear the news. May we all and may our leaders be instruments of peace, of justice for our shared future. I invite you to bring the names you're holding in your own heart this day, in joy or in sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For all those names and many others, spoken, unspoken, may we all be held in love and grace. These words of meditation come from Nadine Gordimer. It is not the conscious changes made in our lives, like a new job, a new town, some separation or change in relationship, which really shape us, like the chapter headings in a biography. But more often, it's a long, slow mutation of emotion, hidden, something by which we may be so taken up that the practical outward changes of our lives in the world, noted with surprise, scandal, or envy by others, pass almost unnoticed by ourselves. This gives a shifting quality to the whole surface of life. Decisions made with reason and the tongue may never be made valid by the heart. May it be so. Amen.
Stationary Bicycle by Linda Paston. You pedal furiously into a future you're trying hard to prolong by this exercise. Though the landscape that rolls by here is time passing, with its list of things undone or not done properly, all this effort, the fierce monotony of this ride, feels much like life itself, going nowhere strenuously, redeemed in part by the imagination, its trance of rivers and trees, its shady roads unwinding just beyond your closed eyes, or even on the TV screen you sometimes watch as you ride. Mile after mile of drama, unfolding while you pump and pump, proceeding from here to here. At 20 theoretical miles per hour, your legs begin to throb as if your body communicates in a code of pain, saying, never mind the future. You're here right now, alive. Second reading is The Struggle That Undergirds the Grace by Barbara Quick. What a slow way to eat. The butterfly is given by nature, sipping nectar one tiny blue flower at a time. Though a monarch in name, she's made to scavenge like the poorest of the poor, a morsel here, a morsel there, a flutter of ink-splattered orange wings. We don't want to see the struggle that undergirds the grace, the ballerina's sweat or her ruined feet, hidden by tights and toes. She knows her career will be brief. It will be as brief as it is hard to achieve. Pollinated, the tiny blue flowers are sated. The butterfly flits away, hoping to live one more day.
Thanks, Joe. There is no way it should have lived. No food source, really, no sunlight, no fresh air. But there it was when it was time to empty the wastebasket. On the inside of the lid, underneath, hanging there precariously, was a monarch chrysalis. It's not where it was supposed to be, which must have been a tiny seed on some old milkweed leaf that got swept up into this trash can, and it was trying to find some place to hold on to dear life. There it was, delicately holding on in whatever circumstance it found itself in. Because I guess that's what you do. If you're a little caterpillar and you find yourself in a trash can, you find whatever food you can, and you maybe take the forming of the jay and the chrysalis a little earlier than you had planned, and just do what you can in your circumstance and give the best for life and flourishing with no guarantee for what comes next. There was more than we knew that was beneath that trash can lid, that little soul just hanging on for dear life on our porch, still, silent, waiting to emerge from the trash with just a little help from an unsuspecting soul that just went to change the bag. This little monarch chrysalis in the trash can, which appropriately we named Oscar. There is so much more that lives just beneath what we usually can pay attention to or notice, so much more than we know. Just below our anger about how this pandemic rages on, just below that there is grief and sorrow at all we've lost as individuals, as communities, that we're still losing, like the summer, the fall we hoped for. The need for constant risk assessment at every turn, still so much more than we know or expected. Just below the news stories and the images and the reports of a world on fire and spiraling toward doom, which we've known has been happening for years and years, just below that, too, is grief and sadness about what that means for our future, how much work we have to do, how much political will it's going to take to impact those with power and use whatever power we have, limited as it feels, to try to shift the narrative towards something flourishing, beautiful, alive. Just below all these surfaces, just beyond what we think we know about ourselves, about someone else, there is something trying to live, hanging on for dear life, hoping and holding for the possibility of some future that is not promised, is not guaranteed. Moving toward a future as yet unknown. Maybe that's what we're always doing. Way will open, say the Quakers, a belief and attunement of the heart that while there are some things we can control, some things that we do know in mind, heart, body, there is much we do not, so much more beyond what we understand. And regardless of our certainty of anything, the path will unfold, some of it by our influence, some opposite of what we tried to influence. And how we attend to the path in this moment, right here, right now, will impact what the path is going to be. In the next minute, hour, day, year, generation, it will keep opening in some way, and it matters what we do with the now to how it will open next. We know this from how climate catastrophe has raged on. We know this from how this pandemic has raged on. We know this from how our minds and hearts are maybe not where we thought we'd be, that things aren't done. Some things are now left undone that create what's next. And yet life still holds on. And love still holds on, even in the midst of the most unlikely surroundings for love and life to flourish, where all would hopeless seem, we hold on. And maybe the question is, how can we create better circumstances, a better container, so it doesn't feel like we, like anyone, needs to hold on so precariously in waste-filled conditions, like the dumpster fire it's felt like sometimes. The fierce monotony of this ride, writes poet Linda Passon that Greg read for us, strenuously going nowhere. but you're right here, right now, alive. That phrase has stuck with me for months now, strenuously going nowhere, the stationary bike, the stationary life. I don't know about you, but for me, these past few weeks have been a little like a flashback to the early days of this pandemic in March of 2020. The constant change as people talk about change fatigue, watching the numbers and stats again more closely, which had been a daily routine for months, and then I kind of let that go for a while, would check every once in a while, and now it is back into daily routine almost. Wondering about school, wondering about healthcare capacity, about mental health and well-being. The constant risk assessment, more intensified for others, less for some. It is true that we have gained skills this year. As somebody just said to me before service, at least we're not running out of toilet paper this time, that we maybe didn't want to be at, right? Maybe we've got skills now that we didn't want to gain, but we had to learn to figure out how to navigate these days, about how to hold our lives in different ways. We know more than we did as humanity, as scientists, as healthcare workers than over a year ago, but we also know more trauma and grief than we did a year ago. We know more about the virus and its risks, about the world, and still, there's much we don't know. That collectively, we could have controlled and helped write a different story. We know that, and individually, still so much is out of our control. There is more than we know that lives beneath the headlines, beneath the daily stats, the projection, and the data sets. There is much more about disparities in healthcare and education, the ways capitalism and white supremacy continue to show up in brazen ways on local levels that threaten the health of our communities. That puts into question, and that's the saddest part, it puts into question our trust and faith in each other, in our neighbors, to do the right thing. There is more than we know to the erosion of both the earth and with it humanity, the erosion of trust in science and well-sourced information and actual facts, the erosion of good practices and political gain that has exposed things that have been there for quite some time. How for some of us we can manage and imagine and navigate these days pretty easily, and others have had struggle upon struggle upon struggle. We don't want to see the struggle that undergirds the grace, writes Barbara Quick, one tiny flower at a time. The poet writes about the butterfly finding its way. One tiny flower at a time, a lot of work for a short, precarious life. And yet, beneath the simple beauty of their flight that we marvel at, there is so much more than we know. Amy Nezhukuma Tatil is an American author of Filipina and Indian heritage. She writes this in her book about butterflies. It's her book, World of Wonders. She says, there's a spot over Lake Superior where migrating butterflies veer sharply. No one understood why they made such a quick turn at a specific place every time until a geologist finally made the connection. A mountain rose out of the water in that exact location thousands of years earlier. She writes, these butterflies still remember a mass that they have never seen. How did they pass on this knowledge, she asks. Does it transmit through the song they sing to themselves while spinning inside a chrysalis? Does milkweed whisper instructions to them? Perhaps, she writes, in the distant future, a sound that resembles my voice will still haunt my great-great-great-great-great-grandchild, a sound they can't quite place, can't quite name. I love that imagery. There is more than we know of how we got to right now. There are echoes inside us that we can't quite name about action, inaction, known and unknown, that has been making the story of this planet, now in Code Red, making the story of this cycling continuance of health and lack of health, making this experience within us of exhaustion or disheartenedness, but also joy and love. Perhaps it's like the story today that Amy read. Outside sings to us. It reminds us with chirps and rustles and tip-taps on the roof The way the world reminds us of our fragility when the smoke blows in but then clears and we remember the blue sky and the necessity of storm and rain. Perhaps there is something deep within us too, something that only seems to live in the soul that reminds us of our interconnection with this natural world, as well as our capacity for hope. Sometimes the world around us shouts to us at interconnection, and other times we need to feel it. Because you could give every reason these days, most days, for millennia, depending on your perspective or experience, you could give every reason for despair, to lean toward despondency, hopelessness. You could give every reason for that. Sometimes it's more than justified, with varied reasons and circumstances to lead us there. A good spirituality or a good framing of the world will name those things as true, acknowledge and affirm and hold them as valid. And a good spirituality will also focus on one word, and. Not however, or yeah, but, or other forms of well-meaning dismissal of grief or pain, but a simple word, and. That there is despair, and there is beauty. There is sorrow, and there is joy. There is pain, and there is possibility. There is hatred, and there is love. It's all true. It's all real. Those are the facts. That there is every reason to despair, and there is something alive finding a way within us. From our own stories of life, from our culture or heritage or identity, stories we've lived or that live within us. There is something deep within that when the mountains of despair rise up right in front of us, thousands of years ago maybe, there's something that rises up in us that knows how to veer. Even if we can't really tell what we're veering from, we don't know where we found these skills, the obstacles unclear, some song of the ancestors lives in our bones, whispers to us the how and the when and the why and the where to veer. And keep staying alive. Keep going. Though days be filled with storms and burdens weigh my heart, we'll sing in a moment. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. Carefully, by a skilled, albeit shaky hand, the chrysalis was moved from the top of that trash can lid on the underside to a safe place on a branch. Though it wasn't the usual color, the usual size, the usual amount of time, it didn't look like the other chrysali in the little net safely over there. Though the path was not one of expectation or regularity, still life found a way, and a few weeks later the wings opened. And out of this new and uncertain world, with nothing more than hope and the wisdom of ancestors and finding life there in refuse and waste, ancestors whispering a song, Oscar the monarch, born in the uncertainty of darkness and waste and a place barely habitable, was wrapped in hope and took flight. The hymn is I Know I Can.
Days be dark with storms, and burdens weigh my heart. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. When sorrow heals my soul, and burdens make me strong. Though troubles wait go on. And though the journey is long, the destination is near. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on.
I want you to place your hand on your heart or raise it to the sky. Take an easy breath. May you find in the song your ancestors whisper and live within you the ability, the gift, the skill of gratitude for every dry roof, for every cow, for every moment you've wondered how to go on and something inside you reminds you how. To know that way will open. Amen.